The 1970 Golden Globe Awards after party at the Beverly Hilton. Raquel Welch, Hollywood's biggest sex symbol, stood alone in the corner of the ballroom, mascara running down her face, her emerald gown wrinkled from where she'd been clutching the fabric in her fists. She'd just been humiliated in front of 300 of Hollywood's elite, and not a single person had come to her defense. Around her, the party continued as if nothing had happened. Movie stars laughed and clinked champagne glasses. Directors made deals. Producers prowled for their next projects. Everyone had seen what happened to Raquel. Everyone had heard the cruel jokes and the vicious mockery. But Hollywood had a rule. You don't defend the sex symbol when the powerful men are attacking her. You stay quiet, protect your career, and pretend you didn't see anything. Everyone followed that rule. Everyone except one man. Dean Martin walked across that ballroom floor with his trademark martini in hand, heading straight for the woman everyone else was avoiding. What he did next didn't just shock the room. It changed Raquel Welch's life forever and reminded Hollywood what real class looked like. Before we dive into this incredible story of loyalty and courage, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't believe how Dean's actions that night became the standard for how real men should treat women in Hollywood. To understand what happened that night, you need to know who Raquel Welch really was behind the iconic image. Born Joe Raquel Tejada in 1940 in Chicago to a Bolivian father and American mother, Raquel had fought her whole life to be seen as more than just a beautiful face. By 1970, she was everywhere. That famous doe-skin bikini poster from 1 million years BC had sold millions of copies. She'd become the symbol of the sexual revolution, her face on magazine covers worldwide, her name synonymous with beauty and desire. But here's what most people didn't know. Raquel hated being treated like just a body. She was intelligent, well-read, and desperate to be taken seriously as an actress. She studied her craft, worked with acting coaches, and fought constantly with directors who only wanted her to look beautiful and say simple lines. The industry had put her in a box labeled sex symbol, and every time she tried to break out, they pushed her back in with a smile and a reminder of how lucky she was to be desired. That Golden Globe night, she'd been nominated for Best Actress in a Comedy for her role in a film where she'd finally gotten to show her range. She'd prepared a speech. She'd imagined winning and proving to everyone that she was more than cheesecake. But she didn't win. And what happened after was so much worse than losing. Dean Martin, at 52 years old, was Hollywood royalty by 1970. The Rat Pack days were behind him, but he was bigger than ever. His TV variety show was the #1 program in America, watched by 50 million people every Thursday night. He'd proven himself as a singer, actor, comedian, and all-around entertainer. More importantly, Dean had a reputation. Unlike many Hollywood men, he treated women with old-fashioned respect. He opened doors. He stood when ladies entered the room. He never made crude comments or treated actresses like objects. His father had raised him to believe that how you treat women says everything about who you are as a man. The evening started normally enough. Raquel arrived at the Beverly Hilton looking stunning in an emerald green gown that hugged her curves. Photographers went crazy. Fans screamed her name. Inside the ballroom, she took her seat at a table with her agent, her publicist, and several studio executives who'd financed her recent films. Dean was across the room at a different table with some of his TV show's producers and writers. He noticed Raquel when she entered. Everyone did. But Dean also noticed something the others missed. The tension in her shoulders, the forced quality of her smile. He'd been in this business long enough to recognize someone who was armored up for battle. The ceremony proceeded with the usual speeches and awards. When Raquel's category came up, Dean watched her face. She was trying so hard to look casual, but he could see her hands gripping the table edge, her breathing carefully controlled. When another actress's name was called, Raquel applauded gracefully, her smile never faltering, even though Dean could see the disappointment in her eyes. But losing wasn't the problem. What came after was the catastrophe. During the after-party, Raquel stood near the bar, trying to maintain her composure, when one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood approached her. Richard Zanetti was known for two things: making hit movies and having a vicious sense of humor. He'd had too much to drink, and he decided Raquel would be his entertainment for the evening. Well, well, if it isn't Hollywood's favorite decoration, Zanetti said loudly enough for the surrounding crowd to hear. His entourage laughed on cue. Don't worry, sweetheart. Nobody expected you to win. They give acting awards to actresses, not to girls who look good in bikinis. Raquel's face flushed, but she kept her composure. Mr. Zanetti, I'd appreciate if you'd... What? Appreciate if I'd what? He cut her off, moving closer. Here's some free advice, honey. Stop trying to be something you're not. You're not Katharine Hepburn. You're not Meryl Streep. You're a body. A very profitable body, but that's all you'll ever be. So smile pretty, cash your checks, and leave the real acting to people with talent. The words hit Raquel like physical blows. She'd heard variations of this her entire career, but never so publicly, never at an event filled with her peers and colleagues. Her eyes began to water, but she fought to keep the tears back. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her cry. I've studied acting for years, she said, her voice steady despite the trembling she felt inside. I've worked with respected coaches. I prepare for every role seriously. Zanetti laughed, and his entourage joined in. Studied acting? Is that what they call it now? The crude implication hung in the air. Several men nearby laughed. A few women looked away, embarrassed but unwilling to speak up. Raquel felt the room shifting around her. People who'd been friendly earlier were now avoiding eye contact. Her agent had mysteriously disappeared toward the bathroom. Her publicist was suddenly deep in conversation on the other side of the room. The studio executives who'd been at her table had migrated toward the bar, their backs to the scene unfolding. You know your problem, Raquel. Zanetti continued, emboldened by the audience and the alcohol. You think because men want to sleep with you, that means you have talent. But there's a reason you're famous for a bikini and not for Shakespeare. Some people are born to be stars. You were born to be stared at. There's a difference. A director standing nearby snickered. That's cold, Richard, but he's got a point. Another producer chimed in. Remember her trying to do that dramatic scene in her last picture? I've seen better acting in dog food commercials. The attacks came faster now, each man trying to outdo the last with clever insults. They were like sharks that had smelled blood in the water, circling, attacking, feeding off each other's cruelty. And Raquel stood there alone, watching her professional reputation get shredded in real time by men who held the power to give or destroy careers in Hollywood. I saw her screen test for that serious drama, another voice added. The director said it was like watching a mannequin try to cry. Pretty, but completely empty inside. Raquel's hands were shaking now. Her carefully maintained composure was cracking. She'd spent years building credibility, fighting for respect, trying to prove she was more than her measurements. And in 5 minutes, these powerful men had reduced her back to nothing more than a joke. A beautiful joke, but a joke nonetheless. Excuse me, she whispered, her voice barely audible. She turned to leave, to escape before the tears came, before she gave them the complete satisfaction of destroying her dignity along with her reputation. But Zanetti wasn't done. Where you going, sweetheart? We're just having fun. Can't take a little honest criticism. He grabbed her arm, not roughly but firmly enough to stop her. See, this is your problem. You're too sensitive. Real actresses can take notes. But you just want everyone to tell you how pretty you are. That's when the tears came. Despite everything, despite all her strength and determination, Raquel felt hot tears spill down her cheeks, ruining her makeup, proving to everyone in that ballroom that she was exactly what they thought. Weak, emotional, just a pretty girl who couldn't handle the real world of show business. She pulled her arm free and practically ran toward the corner of the ballroom, away from the crowd, away from the laughter that followed her retreat. She pressed herself against the wall near the curtains, trying to disappear, trying to become invisible. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Mascara ran down her face in black streams. Her emerald gown seemed to mock her now. All that beauty, all that glamour, and it meant nothing. She was nothing. The party continued. The band played. People danced. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. And Raquel Welch, one of the most famous women in the world, stood alone in the corner, crying, while 300 people pretended not to notice. Her agent saw her, but turned away, unwilling to confront Zanetti, who could greenlight or kill projects with a phone call. Her publicist caught her eye, but then checked her watch and headed toward the exit, suddenly remembering an early morning meeting. The studio executives who'd sat at her table were now laughing at Zanetti's jokes, joining the pack, proving their loyalty to power rather than to the actress they'd courted for months. Even other actresses avoided her, some out of fear of being associated with someone who'd just been publicly humiliated, others out of secret satisfaction, that schadenfreude that came from watching the beautiful and famous get knocked down. Hollywood was a town built on comparison, and Raquel's destruction made everyone else feel a little bit better about themselves. She stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only 5 minutes. 5 minutes of complete isolation. 5 minutes of understanding that in this town, in this business, beauty was an armor. It was a target. And when the powerful decided to attack, nobody would defend you. That was the rule. That was how Hollywood worked. Raquel wiped at her tears with the back of her hand, smearing mascara across her cheek. She needed to leave. Get to her car. Go home. Cry properly in private where cameras couldn't catch it, where tomorrow's gossip columns couldn't describe it. She took a deep breath, preparing to make her escape across the ballroom floor to the exit. That's when she heard the voice. "Evening, Raquel. Mind if I join you?" Dean Martin stood beside her, martini in hand, his tuxedo perfect, his expression calm and friendly, as if he'd just encountered her at a pleasant cocktail party, rather than hiding in a corner with ruined makeup and tears streaming down her face. Raquel tried to compose herself, tried to put on the brave face that Hollywood demanded. "Dean, I'm not really in the mood for." "I know," he said gently, cutting her off. "I saw what happened. I saw what those jackals did to you." His voice was still calm, still friendly, but there was steel underneath. "And I'm here to tell you something important." He turned to face her fully, his brown eyes serious. "Everything they said was garbage. Complete garbage. And I'm about to make sure everyone in this room knows it." Before Raquel could respond, before she could tell him not to risk his reputation for her, Dean turned and walked back toward the center of the ballroom. His stride was purposeful, his shoulders back. He wasn't rushing, but there was something in his movement that made people turn and watch. He walked directly to where Zanetti was holding court, surrounded by his entourage of producers, directors, and hangers-on who made their living by laughing at powerful men's jokes. "Richard," Dean's voice carried across the conversation, friendly but commanding attention. "I couldn't help but overhear your film criticism earlier." Zanetti turned, a smile on his face. He thought Dean was joining in, adding to the fun. "Dean, just giving young Raquel some honest feedback. Someone's got to tell her the truth." "The truth," Dean repeated, nodding slowly. "That's interesting, because I've worked with Raquel. Did a week of filming for a special last year. And you know what I learned?" The crowd around them had grown quiet, sensing something was about to happen. She showed up before call time every day, knew everyone's lines, not just her own, took direction beautifully, made everyone around her better. Dean's voice was still casual, conversational, but there was an edge now. And her performance? It was professional, prepared, and talented. Real talent, Richard. Not the kind you buy with a checkbook, but the kind that comes from hard work and dedication. Zanetti's smile flickered. "Dean, I didn't mean. But here's what really impressed me," Dean continued, talking over him. "At the end of that week, she went around and personally thanked every crew member. Grips, electricians, the catering staff. She remembered their names, asked about their families." He paused, taking a sip of his martini. "You know what that tells me? That tells me she understands something you clearly don't. That talent isn't just about what you can do. It's about who you are." The silence in the room was absolute now. People had stopped dancing. Conversations had died mid-sentence. Everyone was watching Dean Martin publicly dress down one of Hollywood's most powerful producers. "Now," Dean set his martini down on a nearby table. "I'm going to give you a chance to do the right thing, Richard. You're going to walk over to that corner where Raquel is standing. You're going to apologize sincerely for your behavior tonight. And you're going to do it in front of everyone here, just like you insulted her in front of everyone. Zanetti's face flushed red. Dean, you're out of line. This is none of your... Or... Dean's voice dropped lower, quieter, but somehow more menacing. I make a phone call tomorrow morning. One call to the network. I tell them I won't do my show next season if they work with producers who publicly humiliate women. My show brings in 50 million viewers every week, Richard. How many viewers do your movies bring in? The threat hung in the air. Dean Martin's variety show was the most profitable program on television. The network would choose Dean over Zanetti without hesitation, and everyone in that room knew it. But Dean wasn't finished. And after I make that call, I make another one. To Frank. Then to Sammy. Then to every major star I know. By Monday morning, you'll be blacklisted from every A-list project in this town. Not because of unions or politics, but because nobody wants to work with a man who treats women like garbage. Zanetti looked around for support from his entourage, but they'd all taken subtle steps backward, creating distance. Power in Hollywood shifted quickly, and Dean currently held all of it. So what's it going to be, Richard? Dean picked up his martini again, his posture relaxed, giving Zanetti the illusion of choice. Apologize like a gentleman, or start looking for work in commercial television. Richard Zanetti stood frozen for a long moment, his jaw clenched, his pride warring with a survival instinct. Finally, he walked slowly toward the corner where Raquel still stood, Dean following a few steps behind. Raquel looked up as they approached, her eyes red and swollen, mascara still streaked down her face. She tensed, expecting another attack. But Zanetti, his voice stiff and mechanical, said, Miss Welch, I apologize for my behavior tonight. It was inappropriate and unprofessional. I'm sorry. It wasn't warm. It wasn't sincere. But it was public, and in Hollywood, public apologies meant everything. Raquel looked past Zanetti to Dean, who gave her the smallest nod of encouragement. Thank you, Mr. Zanetti, she said quietly. I accept your apology. Zanetti turned and walked away quickly, his entourage scrambling after him. Within 5 minutes, they'd left the party entirely. Several other men who'd participated in the mockery followed, suddenly remembering early morning meetings or family commitments. Dean stayed with Raquel. He pulled out a clean handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to her. Here, for your face. She took it, dabbing at the mascara stains, trying to repair the damage. You didn't have to do that, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You could have just ignored it like everyone else. I could have, Dean agreed. But my father taught me something when I was a kid. He said the measure of a man isn't how he treats people who can do something for him. It's how he treats people who can't do anything for him, who are vulnerable, who need help. He gestured toward the ballroom. Half these people would have defended you if you were a powerful producer or a studio head. But because you're a beautiful actress, they figured you didn't need defending. Like being beautiful is armor instead of a target. Raquel's tears started again, but this time they were different. Everyone thinks my life is easy because of how I look. They think I don't struggle, don't hurt, don't work hard. Tonight proved they'll never see me as anything else. Wrong, Dean said firmly. Tonight proved that some people are too stupid to see talent when it's right in front of them. But that's their failure, not yours. He paused, making sure she was listening. Raquel, I've been in this business 30 years. I've worked with everyone from Jerry Lewis to Frank Sinatra. And you know what? You've got real talent. The kind that lasts. The kind that matters. Then why doesn't anyone else see it? She asked, her voice breaking. Because they're not looking, Dean said simply. They're too busy staring at the surface to see what's underneath. But that's going to change. Want to know why? She looked at him, hope flickering in her eyes. Because starting Monday, I'm making some calls. I've got a movie project that needs a strong female lead. Real character, real depth. I'm going to recommend you for it. And when the director hesitates because of your reputation, I'm going to tell him the same thing I told Zanetti. That you're talented, professional, and that anyone who can't see past your beauty to your ability is a fool. True to his word, Dean Martin made those calls. He used his influence to get Raquel auditions for serious roles. He publicly praised her talent in interviews, forcing the industry to reconsider their one-dimensional view of her abilities. He invited her onto his variety show multiple times, giving her comedy sketches and dramatic moments that showcased her range. More importantly, he changed something in Raquel. That night at the Beverly Hilton, watching Dean risk his reputation and relationships to defend her showed her something she'd never truly believed before, that she was worth defending. Not because of her beauty, but because of her humanity. Because everyone deserved to be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of what they looked like or how famous they were. Years later, when Raquel wrote her autobiography, she dedicated an entire chapter to that night. She described it as the moment she stopped apologizing for her beauty and started demanding respect for her talent. She wrote, "Dean Martin taught me that real power isn't about dominating others. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. He showed me what a real man looks like, and it changed everything." Dean never talked about it publicly. When reporters asked about the incident, he'd shrug it off. "I just didn't like seeing a lady treated badly," he'd say. "That's not complicated. That's just basic decency." But his actions that night rippled through Hollywood. Other actors started speaking up when they witnessed bullying or harassment. Other powerful men began to understand that defending women wasn't weakness, it was strength. The old code of silence began to crack, not all at once, but slowly, starting with one man who decided that his friendship and protection mattered more than playing politics with powerful bullies. The lesson here, ***, real courage isn't about physical strength or tough talk. It's about standing up when everyone else sits down. Dean Martin understood something that night that we all need to remember. Your character is defined by what you do when someone needs help and can't offer you anything in return. It's easy to defend your friends, your family, people who can help your career. It's hard to defend a stranger being bullied by powerful people. But that's exactly when your defense matters most. In a world that often rewards those who look the other way, Dean Martin showed us that real class means standing up, speaking out, and using whatever power you have to protect those who have less. Beauty doesn't make someone less deserving of respect. Fame doesn't make cruelty acceptable. And silence in the face of injustice makes you part of the problem, not separate from it. If this story inspired you to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share your own stories of courage in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed someone being mistreated and had to decide whether to speak up? Tell us what you did and what you learned. And here's something you might have missed. At 11:47, there's a small detail about Dean's father that explains exactly why he became the man who would defend Raquel when nobody else would. Go back and watch closely.